It's the Awake Space Astrology podcast. I'm Laurie Rivers, your cosmic coach, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. Not in my podcast studio tonight, waiting on some new glasses. And it's really good timing. They should be in this week. Why am I saying it's good timing? Because Mercury is retrograde, and retrograde does not mean bad. Go ahead and argue with me, but I swear you're going to find out Mercury retrograde is a time for resolution, revision. It isn't a time to push forward. So why would new glasses be okay? Because these are trashed and my eyes are tired and I can't get much done because I'm very visually impaired, okay? I know I don't look like it, but not every disability is highly visible. I know you see the thick glasses, but there's a reason I don't care if my hair is in front of my eye. I can't see anyway. Mercury retrograde is something that people make a lot of clicks off of and a lot of views off of. But it is a good time to revisit, revise, and restore. Find resolution. It's a good time to prepare and to strategize. It is not a good time to push forward on brand new ideas and brand new projects. We're not always supposed to be running forward. When it comes to the government shutdown, well, if you're a patron, go ahead, put it in the comments that more than once I said, well, it'll probably open up during Mercury retrograde, but I don't think that's going to last very long. And of course, what happened on Sunday? We had a bunch of rogue Democrats cave on the shutdown. I don't think it's going to last. I just don't. We'll see what happens. It's a weird month. Now, what can you do? Because even if this very much affects you, and I know it's impacting a whole lot of people, whether it's affecting your benefits, affecting your work, your job, your salary, it's so stressful. There are things you can do and that are inside of your control, even when those aren't. You can reach out to the few senators who said they were willing to change their vote, especially constituents, and you can get a hold of them. That's inside your control. They gave you that. You can not doom scroll through TikTok or let yourself get your blood pressure worked up listening to political commenters and armchair experts. That's one thing you can do. You can take a look around your present moment and where you're at, where you live, and make decisions around what matters to you most that can be taken care of right now. What do you need to revise? What do you need to restore? Where do you need to find solutions in your life? That's stuff you can do just this week and next week till the 29th of November when Mercury stations direct. That should be a very interesting day, but that's a different podcast. If you're a patron, I made your Mercury retrograde survival guide, and that's patrons at the $15 level and up, because I read from the magazine as well my thoughts for November. And it really is all about being deliberate this month. So I'll give you a little example. I told this to patrons too. So right before I started to record, I have to move all my gear out into a bigger space, okay, with better lighting. And I had walked in the room, and my interface, without being touched, it's a little red box. It just went boop and fell on the ground. And I went, that's unfortunate. It's not cheap. That little red box is not a cheap piece of equipment. I was like, really? And then I stepped back and my mic falls off the table. And I'm like, really? This is my spare mic. This is why I'm holding it. That's why the sound has been, well, it's been better than it was back when we had software problems, but I don't have my popper with me. So there's a little hard P's and B's, and I'm trying to speak very quietly into the mic so it doesn't go boo. Anyway, if you're in Patreon, you can, or if you go to the Patreon, because all of the video episodes I'm making public. This is the free podcast. This is the podcast our patron sponsors. So it's there. You don't even have to sign up for free to go watch it. Aren't you lucky? It's been a Mercury retrograde. While I was recording patron-only content, I had my background blurred, and it decided to tell me my computer didn't have the resources. By the way, my computer very much has the resources. It's a glitch in the software. That's what I'm telling you. It's been wild, I tell you. But these aren't bad things. These are annoyances. And that's really what Mercury retrograde kind of is. It's annoyances, and they're meant to slow your roll. I know we always like getting our way and we want things to go exactly the way we want them to, but sometimes the universe gives us a yellow caution light, and sometimes it gives us a red light, and sometimes it's got the auto driving on and it hits the brakes for us. We may not understand the reason, but it's playing out for that reason. And just like I said in the patron-only podcast on Mercury retrograde, you can tell me all the anecdotal stories you want. It doesn't mean it was Mercury retrograde itself causing anything, because first of all, it doesn't cause anything. There are many other planetary actions happening right now. Many. And the one most people sleep on are lunar transits, because they move so fast. Yeah. Crap happens fast, too. Mars is in Sag. Uranus just popped back into Taurus. Jupiter stations retrograde on the 11th. I don't know. What do you think's going to happen? But anyway, that's your Mercury retrograde. And you know what I forgot to do? This could be a long opening because it's Mercury retrograde. I'm just taking it with a sense of humor. So get your tea, get your coffee, get your matcha, get your Red Bull, get your H2O, and whether we're going to work and we will get perfect parking, do be aware with Mercury retrograde, traffic can be a little weird. There's going to be people with some lead feet driving like nut jobs, so keep your eyes on the road, keep your hands on hit 10 and 2, no meditating in the car in traffic. You will get perfect parking, I promise. If we're taking the kids to school, if we're doing crafts at home, if we're just taking it easy, maybe we took Monday off and we're just going to sit and crochet or knit or do some woodworking, or maybe you're cooking meal prep for the week. Whatever we're doing it together here on the Awake Space Astrology podcast. Coming up next, our weekly patron shoutouts to thank the patrons that keep this podcast independent, ad-free, and sponsorship-free. All right, every Monday we do patron shoutouts, and this is our newest patrons. If you don't know what happens on our Patreon, it's not just you subscribe and spend money so you can support this public podcast. There's a ton of resources inside to learn astrology, explore astrology, to gain deeper understanding of astrology and yourself, as well as an amazing community. We laugh, we cry together. I go live there a lot. I know I've been going live on TikTok much, but honestly, it's because my Patreon is so much fun, and we have at least one slumber party every single month. I try to do a couple, but we had a really fun one on Saturday. Anyway, big welcome and thank you to our newest members. We've got Alexander, JW, Miriam, Alyssa, Carly, Marsha, Kiana, Deanna, Rachel, Caitlin, Nicole, Kristen, Nan53, Sharita, Lauren, Gale Force Winds, Caroline, Mel, Amy, Evie, Carrie, Sloan, Peony, A-Ray, Mia, Leo, Morty, Jennifer, Archer of Lust, Lori, Lindsay, Jewel Sphere, J Mintz 87, Neva, Zen Void, Ms. Laura Dubs, Heather, Chelsea, Allie, Cassandra, Sparkleworm, Carmen, Alex, Nicole, Rachel, and Jen. Thank you all for joining. The What's in the Headlines is coming out today on Monday. So if you want to know what the predictions are, head over to the Patreon. Remember, you save 50% on annual subscriptions at the $15 level and up. Do it on a browser. Don't get the iOS charges, but you'll save 50%. Check the show notes. All right, let's talk about Jupiter stationing retrograde and how we can use our Mercuries, because we're still using astrology here, how we can use our astrology, especially our Mercury, to pick up some missed opportunities. All right, we've got Jupiter stationing retrograde on the 11th, and I know the internet is going to go hog wild telling you how luck's going to turn. Well, Jupiter isn't just the planet of luck, and as we go forward with the Using Your Astrology series, we'll talk about the social planets of Jupiter and Saturn. But today I thought, I started with Mercury retrograde. And on a personal level, it doesn't really matter if you were born with something retrograde or direct. It's almost like people want to avoid things. It's like, if I'm really good, shitty things won't happen to me. Or if I have this placement, these things won't affect me. Well, I have Mercury direct in my chart, and Mercury retrogrades in general, 90% of the time, I wouldn't even know. Other than maybe things are a little more fiddly, right? Because Mercury retrograde isn't about the big stuff. The anecdotes you give me, I can almost guarantee there's other stuff going on. There's other aspects to your natal planets happening, okay? So it is rare and it is unusual for it to just be one thing. And in fact, I've never seen it be just one transit. So having just enough information to be dangerous can really mess with your mindset. We want to talk about Mercury in your natal chart because this is how we tune our mind. We're tuning. Now you could tune to the shit show and that's what you're going to get, or you can tune to finding things that you've left on the table the last, 5-6 months. So Jupiter goes retrograde once a year. It's honestly not that big of a deal. It goes retrograde for about 3.5 months. So it'll go direct in 2026. And what it's giving us the opportunity to do is pick up things we left on the table. All right. Whether it's money, jobs, opportunities, things we didn't think about, our own skill sets. Jupiter is the magnifying glass. And when it's retrograde, it kind of, the lens narrows a little bit and it's more like a magnifying glass you hold in your hand, like a detective. It's a good time for rooting out things that we may have overlooked. Okay. So, you might be, I'm going to use like crafting or cooking as an example. Like you've got all the ingredients, but it's missing something. Like maybe you're making some kind of bread and it's really good. It's a dessert bread. It's really great for the holidays, but it's missing something. Cardamom, saffron. What'd you miss? What can you put in the next batch? Okay, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a little bit of the extra spice. It gives us an opportunity to prepare and plan. Any retrograde is an opportunity to prepare and plan. But you want to look at the theme. So Jupiter is the magnifying glass. And a lot of times, depending on what Jupiter's doing, it's magnifying other areas of life. So like for myself personally, Jupiter was magnifying the fact I needed new glasses. You can't tell, but there are like a million jillion scratches inside these glasses. It's like having cataracts. Okay. And that's to make the prescription that I've got work. All right. They have to use this very sensitive type of material to make them thinner. So as thick as these things look, trust me, at the power they're at, like I wouldn't be able to wear glasses if these were like glass. They would be like true, like bigger than Coke bottles. So I missed it until it got bad enough. And it happened to happen when Jupiter, transit Jupiter, was squaring my moon. It's more complex than that, but it brought up my own, right? And so my energy was low and low and low and low. And I thought, God, am I dying? What's going on? No, it's just I needed new glasses. So I'm excited about Jupiter retrograde because all the things I wanted to do over the last few months, I didn't have the energy for. I had a lot of time to think about it though. And so while it's retrograde, I'll be able to go back and do the things I was going to do. And I will be able to watch how that works and adjust and calculate differently because the magnifying lens is going to be on those things I want to create, talk about, and do this podcast, etc. So there's good stuff on the way. One of those things is going to be getting an audiobook out, actually two, Living by Luna, okay, which is how to harness the transiting moon's energy to map out your life, your days, understand your own consciousness better. It's a really powerful book. I'm going to have that out as an audiobook and then a print on demand. Exciting. And one is the novel I wrote for my dear friend Anne. And I just wanted to do an audiobook of it first. And if people want it in a paperback, then I'll have it done print on demand. So I just got a green light for that project. I will be spending Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, getting all of that put together. These are things I've been working on for a long, long time. It is not a time I'm going to start something brand new. Okay. And it doesn't mean brand new that other people can see it, but if you've got a journal or you've been mapping things out and strategizing, it's not new. If you just get a sudden epiphany while you're driving your car, you're in your shower, you're taking a walk, that doesn't mean start it now. It means sit down, work on it. So like the other podcasts, the Crochet Liberation Front podcast, the American Blueprint, Civics for Everyday People, those have had to wait. I haven't. I've had to just service what I can do. Okay. Because I can work at about 15 minutes at a time on the screen, and then I have to take a 30 to 40-minute break. Literally, my eyes just poop out. So I'll sleep well. Let's put it that way after this. So for you want to look at what have you been working on? Like, forget the astrology. Because we're going to let you integrate what you learned all last week. And that's a great library to refer to. And if you're brand new, I went through all the inner planets as a systems map to help you understand your energy and your consciousness and how to use your astrology deliberately. So go check that out. And if you're a patron, go watch that 1-hour video I made just for you. Okay, there's a ton of information in there. I put it all together. All right. So, and that's from the $5 level and up. You want to work on your mindset over the next few months because that's what's going to get you through everything. All right. Because 2026 starts off like 2025 is still going. There's a gear change mid-year. All right. So we still have to be adaptable. We still have to be resourceful. And we need to have really good mindsets and have as much focus as we can put in. In the Mercury episode, I believe, it might have been the Venus episode, I talked about what happens when you're neurodivergent. You go back and check that out. And you're working with your natural energy. We're not telling you, now is not the time to conform. Now is the time to use all those weird little quirks that you possess, because that's what's going to give you an advantage. And if you've struggled in life, you have an amazing array of skills. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. And probably there's going to be a lot of opposition in the outer world to people having decent lives. I mean, they're coming at people during the holidays. Like, it's going to backfire. It will not last. Okay. But in the meantime, we have to put our focus on the interior self, because that's all we have control over. You don't have control over anything else. The more you can put your focus here during these retrogrades, look at what can be readjusted inside of yourself, calibrated, tweaked, just shifted just a little bit, and then wait for the epiphanies. So it could be, I'm really upset about this thing that's going on in the world. I feel so helpless. I feel so hopeless. I feel so let down. Yes, acknowledge it. And then tweak. What can I do right now in my community, in my own home? What do I have resources wise? Do I need to ask for help, or can I be the helper? Either way, if you don't ask for help, you don't give somebody the blessing of being the helper. Okay. And you can pay it forward. I've paid it forward for a long time because I had people show up out of the woodwork just when I'd think everything wasn't going to work out in my personal life. Single mom, 2 little kids, came back to this country, didn't have any money, hadn't even lived in my own country for a decade, had no idea because I didn't become an adult here. I became an adult overseas. I didn't know how to do stuff. And everybody expected me to. And they acted like I was being lazy or something when I didn't know how things worked. It was crazy. And people would just show up at the right time. I'd like to say that was like a little bit of karma in a good way because I'd always been a helper. But I don't think so. I think we were lined up. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. All I have is trust. And I would feel into it and be like, well, I know we're going to be okay. We're not okay right now, but we're going to be. And everything would line up. Somebody would show up. There'd be a resource. Something would happen. Some of the most magical years of your life, and by the way, Jupiter can be involved in this. Some of the most magical years of your life can be the ones where there's more than your fair share of struggle, because when else do you really need the magic? When else do you really need the synchronicities? They happen all the time. You just don't notice them. You notice them when you need them. Okay? And maybe you're that person who is helping. It is hard when we're struggling to hold our consciousness. It's easier to be in self-defense and survival mode and struggle. And I have been there more than once. And both with kids and after my kids were grown, because I decided to change my life up. And I did it intentionally because I was like, well, I did it once when I had little kids and everything worked out. People thought I was crazy. And I was like, no, I know I will be fine. I know I will make things work. I know how this is going to go. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I know I end up on top. And I did. It took hard work. And it took being open to seeing the opportunities I might have left on the table because I thought, I'm too old. I'm past it. Nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody listened before. Why are they going to listen now? All that stinking thinking. That gets in your way. Once you start letting that go and be like, well, I wonder what could happen. Good things happen every day. I'm reasonably content. All of that. It's not bullshit. That's how you end up finding opportunity. And that could be the loaf of bread. Okay. I'm not saying you're going to win the lottery. I'm not saying you're going to be a billionaire. This isn't about abundance. This is about abundance inside. And Jupiter governs that. So with it retrograde, we're going to find it from within more than we're going to find it without, because it does show expansion. And it retrograde doesn't mean contracting. But it means it's a more internal process than it is an external process, okay? And so with Mercury retrograde, we're having a chance to review, go through things. You know how like sometimes you grab a bunch of papers and you put them in a pile? And then you think, what happened to that check I thought I had? You might want to go through the papers. You might want to go back and look through your old emails. You might want to go think about those conversations you didn't have. You know, maybe somebody wanted to talk and you were too busy and you're like, oh, Joe wanted me to call. I should call Joe and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. Life got away from me. I just remembered. How you doing? There may be an opportunity there. And this is where we're going to pick and sift for detail. All right. And I know the news is crazy. In the Patreon on Sunday, when the handful of Democrats caved, it's not the final vote. And a couple of them are opening to switching back to no. So they need to hear from their constituents. Okay. If you are on TikTok, go V from Under the Desk News, put it out. But anyway, I did say Mercury retrograde, we might see the government open, but it'll close right away. Not right away, but it'll close again. It's not going to be a permanent solution. And I don't mean close like next fall. I mean, it'll be open and then maybe around the start of the year. I don't know. I heard there's like dates involved, and I have been too busy to look. If you are a constituent of one of those senators, one of the things in your control is the ability to call, especially the ones that said, well, if I hear from my constituents, I'll vote no. That was a big clue. Okay. So, and we're heading towards a powerful new moon on the 19th. And so next Monday, I'll talk about that. There'll be information in the Patreon. If you get the Awake Space Astrology magazine, you want to make sure you read that final article, which is the new moon article, because I give you your intention setting guide there. This is really powerful about transforming our mindset. And it's really perfect timing because it is in aspect to Jupiter, which will be retrograde. Remember, we're reshaping our thoughts. We're looking back over missed opportunities. Sometimes we say yes because our status quo is our comfort zone. Our normal, even if it's uncomfortable, is our normal, and it's more uncomfortable to make a change. It's scarier to make a change. Sometimes things have to be so do or die for us to make a change, whether people hit rock bottom or you're just sick of a situation, like you've tried everything and you're done, or it's heal or die. In my case, back in 2016, right after David Bowie died, which hit me like a ton of bricks, and mostly because he was my mom's age, and my mom is 22 years older than me. And I thought, shit, if I only have 22 years left, how do I want to live my life? And I looked around my life, and I was wholly unsatisfied. And in fact, I was having some tightness in my chest that had me concerned. But every time I took a road trip, it wasn't there. And I knew it was stress. And I thought, boy, I could stay here and die, or I can leave. And I knew he would be petty. And I knew I would be left without resources. And I thought, you dumbass, not to me. I did this before, and I can do it again. He was mistaken in believing he had rescued me, because we met after I had settled back in the United States, and I had a good job. I was taking care of my kids. I was fine. But it didn't suit his narrative. And so at the age of, and I'm not saying do this because I'm not going to say it wasn't scary. It was, but I had an inner faith and a knowing. And I started doing things I had thought I was past doing. I started making decisions that had scared me before. I did it scared. And so can you. Life is scary. Stuff happens. You can be perfectly aligned to your higher guidance, and there's still going to be storms, and there's still going to be natural events. There's still going to be politicians out there doing dumbass things. But if you can hold your focus a modicum on working on your own internal system, you will be able to navigate these challenging times in a way that's more comfortable, even if you're uncomfortable. But maybe you'll be warmer. Maybe you'll have a good pot of soup. Maybe it's the little things. Like half of the stuff I see, the over-consumerism, that's why I want to do audiobooks first. I don't want trees to get cut down for my books. Yes, I think having books in a library is cool. I have a book in a library. I do. I did that back in 2008. I have a book in a library. It's not my name. It's my former married name, but I've had that experience. It's in libraries all over the country. But I would rather have the audiobook out. It's simple. It's not consumerist. And it's a story of a beautiful human being who I cared about very, very much. And that's my motivation. For you, like, if you're worried about the holidays, whatever winter holiday you celebrate, and you've got kids, my first Christmas back to the States, and my kids were used to celebrating Christmas because their grandmother was Catholic and their grandfather was Muslim. So we celebrated all the holidays, as many multi-faith families do. And I didn't have any money. And I had a 5-year-old. She was very afraid that Santa Claus would not find her. I had a skill. I could crochet. This is my favorite Christmas. My very favorite. I went to the local Fred Meyer's. I was in Portland. And I got a spool of crochet thread and a lace hook. And I started to crochet lace ornaments because we had a Christmas tree, but I couldn't afford to decorate it. And I couldn't afford the electric bill to have lights on it. That's how little money we had. 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I was 29. Back in a country I didn't understand. And I'd only been back, oh my God, at that point, that would have been like the middle of December. So we were about a week and a half away from Christmas. And I had managed to get some money from their father's family to get us settled in a little duplex. I had enough to pay a couple months' rent. And I had put a little bit aside for stocking stuffers and a toy each, something they'd asked for. But she said, Mommy, Santa can't find us without ornaments on the tree. And we don't have any lights. And we moved and he doesn't know. And I'm like, oh my God. So I crocheted until my hands curled. And then I remembered my mother had purchased flannel to make me pajamas when I was about 13. And we never made them. Life changed. Things happened. But I thought, my mom doesn't throw that stuff out. I bet it's still in the sewing cabinet. So I got on the bus, got to my parents' house, ran to the basement, and my parents were in the Peace Corps at the time, and they were in Ethiopia, and I ran to the basement, found the flannel, and I just took the red and black. I left the green and black, and I ran home with this. And by the way, it was an hour bus ride. It was not a short bus ride. It was over an hour because of connections, but I did it and I got home and I started crocheting on the flannel. And then I made a little pillow where I embroidered Merry Christmas. It was for her dolls. And I had that thing decorated. I spent hours and hours and hours, like my hands hurt. And then she came up to me, and this is like the 23rd. And I said, what do you think of the tree, sweetie? She said, but Mama, it doesn't have an angel. I was like, oh, right. So we walked back to Fred Meyer's and I got a skein of red heart because I couldn't do any more thread work. Again, in 2 weeks, I filled a 5-foot tree. And boy, was I hurting. That flannel ornament saved my bacon because I was just having to edge them. I didn't have to do full out lace. And I crocheted the wonkiest angel you've ever seen because I could barely hold the hook. And its head was a little lopsided. The wings weren't sewed on straight. And my embroidery wasn't great because, again, I was having trouble using my hands. And when I finished it, I turned it to her and I said, what do you think, sweetie? And she said, it's the most beautiful angel in the world. And she meant it. Even now, it's her treasure. And one day we'll do a podcast together and talk about it. I was still in survival mode. My kids were still traumatized. I wasn't sure what the future looked like. We had just enough food. I had to go on SNAP benefits. But I wasn't there yet. We had just enough. And then she said, but there's no snow. And I said, sweetie, it doesn't normally snow in Portland for Christmas. We don't get white Christmases here. You're remembering when we went to the mountain when you were little, because when we came to the States on a vacation to meet my grandma, to meet my son, as a baby, and we were there in the spring, and there was still snow on Mount Hood, and we took the kids up. I said, but it doesn't snow on Christmas here. And she goes, but it can't be Christmas without snow in America. You can remember this little girl was born somewhere else, and there wasn't snow. And Christmas Eve, I kid you not, she's the best manifester I know. Christmas Eve, with the tree full of hand-crocheted ornaments, that little girl went to the window, and I had a nice window, and she looked out and she said, Mama, it's snowing. Because I told her, if you really want it, just think really hard you want snow, okay? Because I didn't know what else. She wouldn't listen, to the, it's not going to snow. There wasn't snow in the forecast even. Of course, we didn't have up-to-date weather like we do today. This is 1998. And I went to the window, and if she wasn't right, it was the biggest. They were like silver dollar-sized snowflakes on Christmas Eve. And I said, well, look at what you did there. You made it snow. I gave her the power. And even if it wasn't true, it didn't matter. Because sometimes when life is hard, that's when you need to believe in magic the most. Whether it's true or not true doesn't matter. You have to have hope. You have to believe in something bigger. Just like my little 5-year-old girl did on a Christmas Eve. With a beautiful tree, with beautiful ornaments. I always tear up when I tell the story because it was a really hard time. It was a time where I didn't know if everything was going to work out. I didn't know if any of us were going to be okay. I didn't know if I'd done the right thing. We don't always know for certain. Sometimes all we've got is hope. Sometimes we just have to wish real hard. Now, I didn't sit there and do nothing but wring my hands or get mad at my little girl because she wanted ornaments on a Christmas tree. I knew how important that was. Not because it was a religious moment, but because she needed a little magic in her life. And as Einstein once said, our imagination is our greatest tool. And if we dim our imaginations, then we dim our ability to access hope. Do not believe that Jupiter retrograde leaves you without hope. In fact, it may grant us a great abundance of it. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let me know in the comments, whether on Spotify, Apple. I don't know that Apple has comments. YouTube, and here on the Patreon. You can watch this video with captions for free. It's a public post. You can thank a patron. Thank you very much. We'll talk tomorrow. Maybe we'll talk on Wednesday. I haven't decided. You'll find out. Make sure you're following me so you get notified.